What is happening? Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be incredibly dark and disturbing, so viewer discretion is advised. This is the story of the killer Nanny. It was a regular day in New York City. Families went about their routines. Kids took trips to the playground and parents made their way home after long days at work. One family, however, was about to return home to a sight they would never forget. After leaving their apartment, they locked up and went to spend the day out in the city. It was two little kids and their nanny. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The family's names were Kevin and Marina Krim. Their two children were named Leo and Lulu. The children were extremely attached to their nanny. They called her Miss Olivia or Miss Ely, and she adored them as well. She would play with them, take care of them, and love them like they were her own. In fact, the nanny was so perfect that the family hired her for another year without even interviewing anyone else. However, some things were not right with the nanny. Behind her perfect facade, something sinister was brewing. No one knew what was going on in her mind, not her employers, not her friends, not anyone. She hid her sadness and desperation so well that no one ever guessed. When she was supposed to meet the kids' parents at a park, she often showed up late, sometimes not showing up at all. The couple didn't think much of it. They assumed she had good reason for being absent. They never thought that she might be struggling alone, burdened with problems she refused to share. She had come to America from the Dominican Republic looking for a better life, hoping to send money back home to her family. But she kept more than $7,000 of the money she was supposed to be sending, and the guilt of her deception ate away at her. She also struggled with adjusting to life in America. Her English was limited, and she felt lonely, isolated, and without any friends. No one bothered to ask how she was doing, which only added to her growing resentment toward her employers. But the biggest problem was that she was battling a severe mental illness, something none of them realized until it was too late. The couple lived in a large Upper West Side apartment, and they hired Miss Olivia to look after their children while they were at work. On Tuesday, October 2012, Marina decided to take her youngest child, Nessie, to a swimming class. She left the other two children, Lulu and Leo, with Miss Olivia. As she walked out the door, she asked Miss Olivia to pack the kids' lunches and then take them to the American Museum of Natural History. It was a perfectly normal request, and Miss Olivia said yes. When Marina arrived at the swimming class, she noticed that something was off. Miss Olivia was late. She should have already picked up Nessie and brought her to the class. Marina tried calling her, but the phone went straight to voicemail. She figured that the nanny was running late, but she was getting worried. Marina decided to call her husband, Kevin, and he called the nanny as well. Still, no answer. After finishing up with the swimming class, Marina left and headed over to the museum. On the way, she called Miss Olivia several times, but there was no answer. Finally, Marina arrived at the museum, but neither the nanny nor her children were there. Marina's heart sank. She couldn't believe that the nanny had forgotten to pick up Nessie. This wasn't like her. Where were they? As Marina continued calling the nanny, she began to panic. She couldn't get a hold of her, and she still hadn't seen the two kids. Finally, she called the police to report the children missing. Soon, the search began. But nobody knew that a horror story was about to unfold. In a matter of minutes, the police tracked down Miss Olivia. She was in her car driving around Central Park. When they approached the vehicle, they noticed blood on her arms and clothes. They quickly arrested her. Marina, meanwhile, was getting desperate. Her children were still missing. Where could they be? What had happened to them? As the police searched for answers, Miss Olivia revealed the terrible truth. She admitted that she had taken the kids back home and that they were there waiting for her. Marina instantly felt a chill down her spine. What did she mean? What had happened to her children? And what was with the blood? As Marina rushed to the apartment, she didn't know what to expect, but nothing could have prepared her for what she saw. When she walked in, she discovered a scene straight out of a horror movie. In the bathroom, she found her children lying lifeless in the bathtub, covered in blood. Her worst nightmare had become a reality. Her children were dead. Miss Olivia stood nearby calmly, holding a knife covered in blood. Without hesitation, Marina lunged at her, but the nanny swiftly moved aside, cutting Marina's arm in the process. Marina screamed in pain and anger. Miss Olivia calmly bandaged Marina's wound, and then she turned toward the children, attempting to end her own life by slashing her throat. Marina immediately called the police and paramedics. They rushed Miss Olivia to the hospital, but she survived. When she regained consciousness, she was surrounded by police officers asking her questions. She still had blood on her clothes, and her eyes were blank and distant. When they asked her what happened, she simply replied, "I don't know." Meanwhile, the news of the horrific crime spread quickly, shocking the entire community. People couldn't believe that someone could be so evil. Who was this woman who had murdered 2 innocent children? As investigators dug deeper into the case, they uncovered the truth. They learned that Miss Olivia had been planning the murders for quite some time. She had researched how to commit the perfect murder and had even written down her plan. She was obsessed with the idea of committing the ultimate sin, which is killing children, and then receiving the punishment of death by lethal injection. She wanted to go to jail for life without ever seeing the light of day again. She was sick, deeply disturbed, and not sorry for what she had done. However, her lawyers argued that she wasn't in the right state of mind. They claimed that she had undiagnosed schizophrenia and that she had experienced a psychotic break. They insisted that she couldn't tell right from wrong and that she didn't know what she was doing. They painted a picture of a woman tormented by voices in her head, a woman who couldn't control her actions. But Marina was having none of it. She knew that Miss Olivia was evil and that she deserved to rot in jail for what she had done. There was no excuse for her actions. She had taken away Marina's children, her whole reason for living. How could anyone be so cruel? After much deliberation and 8 days of jury deliberations, Yoselyn Ortega was found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder. The judge, Marshawn McHugh, sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole, saying, "You have deprived these children of their lives and their families of their futures. You have shattered a family and betrayed a trust in the most heinous way possible. Your crime is immeasurable." Throughout the trial, the prosecution had painted a picture of a meticulous planner, someone who had carefully considered every detail of the crime before carrying it out. They pointed to evidence that showed her resentment toward her employers, the Crims, claiming that she felt overworked, underpaid, and invisible to them. The defense, however, argued that this was a woman pushed over the edge by her illness, someone who couldn't control their actions. They argued that the prosecution had failed to prove that she knew right from wrong. But in the end, the jury agreed with the prosecution. The verdict, guilty. The sentence, life in prison without parole. Today, the Krim family continues to honor their children's memory through the Choose Creativity Foundation, helping others to find healing through the arts. They chose love over hate, hope over fear. But the question still remains, why did she do it? Was it jealousy, resentment, mental illness, or something darker that we may never fully comprehend? If you found this story haunting, please hit the subscribe button. And if you're watching on TikTok, tap the follow for more dark mysteries. Stay curious, stay safe, and never stop asking why.